and welcome to AEC Unplugged. Welcome. I hope you all are having a great Tuesday. It is November 19th, and can you believe it is the last episode of season 2? AEC Unplugged, we have had so much fun. We've had so many great conversations since launching in April. I think it was April, and we've just been going nonstop. We've talked about AI to wellness to networking to speaking, professional speaking skills. So many things that I would highly encourage you to go back and rewatch these episodes. So on YouTube, subscribe to the SMPS HQ YouTube, and there is an AEC Unplugged playlist. You can watch them start to finish. These are all intended to be intimate, have good conversations, so that you can meet the thought leaders behind these great programs. And your first time meeting them isn't necessarily right jumping into the content. So this is a place that it's safe and for you to learn and just overall just get to know your thought leaders and the experts in the industry. So with that, where are you tuning in from? I always like to ask. I'm here in Atlanta. It is a rainy day here. So I am looking for some sunshine. I hope you all are doing okay with the sun going down so quickly. It is really it's rough for me. Okay. So anyway, all that being said, enough about that. Tell me where you're coming in from. But before we get into too much of the episode, I want to make a few notes. One, we have SMPS Insights, which is our new blog, and we are really excited about it. We are planning to post monthly. So if you're interested in guest blogging, if you're interested in hearing some topics or what you want us to focus on with these tips, tricks, best practices, all the things, please let us know. This is available to everyone, our whole audience, our membership and beyond. And we also have a few webinars happening this week. It's a big week for us. The first one is tomorrow. So if you are a CPSM, hey, all CPSMs, you have a learning series available to you. It begins tomorrow. We're going to be talking about trends with Scott Butcher. It's going to be an amazing talk. I just heard him speak at Pinnacle here in Atlanta, and it was honestly mind blowing. So make sure to tune in on that. Again, this is a CPSM exclusive learning series for you. After that, what's that? Thursday, November 21st, we have the Foundations of AI and AEC Marketing, Enhancing Market Research and Planning. So this is going to be very specific in how Liza, our leader here, presenter, is going to be going through these AI discussions through the domains of practice, which I think is really, really important, and really focus on the AEC marketer, business developer perspective. We just spoke with her last week on AEC Unplugged. So if you're interested in learning more, please tune in there. And lastly, but not lastly, big deal, Amplify AEC, which is our annual conference. The launch rate, it's here. It just launched November 1st. But here's the thing, the launch rate will end next week, November 30th. So if you are thinking about it, or you already know for sure you are going to go, your budget has been approved, grab your registration, register now, so that you can get the best rate for the conference. Okay. I think that's it. Look, we have another webinar coming up on 12/12, December 12th, and that's who we're going to be speaking to today. Is our speaker for that presentation. So with all that being said, today we're going to be talking about recruiting really through the AEC websites, and retaining and recruiting and all the good things. So I'd like to introduce our guest today, David LaCours, principal of LaCours Design. Hey, David.
Hi, Danielle. Great to be here.
Great to have you. I'm glad. I've seen you so many ways and so many, regionals and, annual conferences. So I'm glad that we get to have this conversation right on here.
Absolutely.
Yes. So I typically ask the same question because I just have always found it so intriguing. Um, before we get started, talk about any of the things that you know. How did you find your way into the AEC industry? Did you dream about this as a young boy?
Yeah, like many, it's a linear path.
Yeah.
No, I should say it's a circular path that meanders. But yeah, I went to USC in Los Angeles for college, thinking I was going to go to their architecture school. But I took a marketing class and an architecture class, and I found the marketing class a lot more interesting. So I ended up choosing that path. And then out of school, my first job was working in international marketing at Paramount Pictures in Hollywood, which was pretty cool. And after a little while, had a quarter life crisis at 25 and decided I was going to go back to school in graphic design across town at UCLA. But just want to make sure it's clear, I would definitely and do definitely root for the Trojans on game day.
Nice.
So then in 1995, I started my own firm. And like any sort of entrepreneur, you're scrappy. You're just trying to get work wherever you can. And it was pretty unfocused. But at the time, we did have an architecture firm client. And I liked working with them. Moved back to San Diego in 2003. Had a crush on this woman who told me about SMPS. And I was like, yeah, I'll do whatever you say. And
That's so
so I was like, yeah, joined the San Diego chapter. Got on the board of directors, got my CPSM, and fell pretty deeply for SMPS, and the rest is kind of history. Now we only focus on working with AEC firms, and pretty much all my outward marketing efforts have SMPS relations in some way or another.
So I want to say that is the most. There's been some interesting stories. One, I had no idea that you were. I mean, you were in Hollywood. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think the graphic design piece is so interesting. How you decided, you know what, I'm going to go back to school and do this. So I have a lot of questions. I know some of which I don't think we're going to get through today, but we will be able to get through in your session. So, but what I want to start this discussion on is about retaining and recruiting AEC marketers, business developers, in this industry right now. I know that there's a lot of conversations. We just went to Pinnacle. There's a lot of discussion about recruiting and retaining. So, what are you seeing that firms are challenged with right now as it relates to retaining and recruiting employees?
Yeah, just real quick, I want to give a shout out. You guys did and when I say you guys, I mean SMPS did such a great job putting on Pinnacle. So
Oh, thank
congratulations.
you. Thank you.
What I'm seeing, and this is sort of typical, like about every week, I'll get a call from a CEO or CMO, and they'll say, "Hey, David, we've got plenty of work, but we don't have enough talent to complete that work." And on one hand, that's a nice problem to have, but it's still a problem, and it needs a solution. And what I think we're all finding is that whether they're technical staff or not, people aren't just staying in one job for their entire career. They're not staying as long as they are as they used to. Unfortunately, some people are even leaving the industry. Like for an example, some electrical engineers are getting lured by technology, and they're getting incredible salary offers that are just tough to compete at AEC firms. So I think the challenge is, at least the challenge as it's presented to me as a brand and digital marketing expert, is like, how can we help make our firms be more appealing to both, prospective employees, but also existing employees? So a lot of people call this employer branding, which I don't love that term, and that sort of gives the idea that there's an employer brand and a client brand. And I personally believe there should just be one brand. Sure, you might have different messaging to one of the audiences or the other. But yeah, so that's the kind of problem as I see it happening right now. And I think a lot of firms are faced with this.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard very similar conversations. I mean, again, we were at Pinnacle and saw some of the insights from Scott Butcher and
Yeah.
so many things there. So, we were talking a little bit about this before going live about the idea of modern recruiting. Um, how do you define that, and then how do you come into the picture
Yeah.
from a brand perspective?
So I think the short answer is modern recruitment is digital. And I think, this is a part of the strategic plan for SMPS and also for a lot of firms out there. It's to try to make this like complete digital transformation. If you think about it, everything from where the ads are getting placed, whether it's on the your chapter's job board or SMPS national job board, which I highly recommend, or whether it's on Indeed, that starts digital. The place that candidates start to do their research, they're looking at your website and trying to understand what your firm's all about. That's digital. They're jumping over to your LinkedIn profile to look at both your firm's profile as well as some individuals and leaders that they may interact with, maybe during the application process. The job is listed digitally. A lot of firms use HR software that's integrated into their website, so they apply digitally. The people that are reviewing applications are looking, it's like the whole digital experience from a firm's perspective needs to be great. We think of the website as kind of like the hub of that, and you have all these spokes coming out like social media, blogs, even online appearances and things like that, like we're doing today. So yeah, we think the website is got to be really in great shape, and as do like all your digital touch points, like social, especially LinkedIn.
Yeah, I mean, I liked how you used it. The website is like this foundation, and you have all these different spokes because it's not just a website anymore.
No,
It's so complex. But I think it doesn't necessarily have to be. So when I think about when as especially as a marketer, I'm like, well, I don't have anything to do with recruiting and retaining. But
right.
then there's this piece with the website, which the marketing is usually the team to lead that. So why do you think it's important for AEC marketers, business developers, growth professionals to be a part of this discussion when it comes to the AEC website?
Yeah, one of the things we talked about at the Pinnacle conference is that AEC marketers and BD folks are really the cool, fun people in your firms. And I think they are attractive. And so I think they know how to leverage all that's good in your firm and tell the story. Like, who better to market for jobs than marketers? And I
Right.
know that seems obvious, but typically, HR leaders are great at what they do, but they're not marketers by training. So I think marketers need to step in and work in concert with them and work as a team. The other thing is that marketing folks are really, and BD, like we have in my opinion, the most emotional intelligence in the room and in the firm, and we have like our fingers on the pulse of how people feel, and I think we're better at empathy, and so I think a lot of that gets played out in the recruiting process.
Yeah.
I do another talk all about firm culture and being intentional in designing a firm culture. And I think that marketers should own culture within your particular firm. And so to be able to translate that culture into recruiting is a really critical role that I think marketers should take the lead on. And, if we go back to the vision of SMPS, business transformed through marketing leadership, I think marketers need to lead. And this is an area where we definitely should use those skills.
I love that. I mean, how long have you been in SMPS? Because I'm like picking up all the connections here.
Yeah.
Um,
A long time.
yeah.
Let's see. I think I started like 2002, so like
Okay.
22 years now.
Oh, that is so awesome. That's so awesome. Okay, that was completely side note that I just wanted to
Yeah.
know for myself. Without giving too much away, what are some things that you've seen people or firms do well when it
Yeah.
comes to their website as it relates to recruiting and retaining?
So the baseline that you need to exceed is just having a single careers page with a bunch of job listings, right? That's like the absolute minimum, right?
Right.
But I think what we're seeing, and when we're working with our clients and designing their websites, it's really thinking of it more as like an entire career section, not just a single page. So some other pages that we often create for clients is like a dedicated page all about why work here. And this is like
Mhm.
speaking back to that employer branding. And of course, it's got like the, again, minimum baseline of what your benefits are. But really not just like medical, dental, profit sharing or that kind of thing, which are almost expected, but really like what are the unique benefits? Like what things are you offering your employees that are above and beyond or just different than everybody else? Again, it's all about differentiation and
Right.
making your firm stand out. I think having a dedicated page to culture is super important. Some firms include things like testimonials from employees, especially if you can do that in the form of video. Video obviously is a great storyteller, and put that on those pages, including some information about training and mentorship or professional support. Like, do you reimburse people for their professional organizations they're involved with? And at the end of the day, we really believe pretty strongly that people, hire people they know, like, and trust. So there need to be your people throughout your entire site. They can't just live in the people section.
Mhm.
So when somebody's going through a market page or a service page or a project page, that's where your people also need to show up. So that if somebody, whether it's a prospective client or talent, could actually maybe reach out, or maybe they end up having an interview with somebody that they've read about on the website, and now they have something in common they can talk about. So those are some nuggets, and I'm not giving everything away. There'll be plenty more for December 12th.
Well, look, that was plenty, and I hope that those watching really got into that. I mean, I see that we have someone tuning in from Michigan, so hi from Michigan. And if you are joining in as you go, please let us know where you're tuning in from. There was something that you said there, especially as it relates to marketing. The marketing mind is differentiators, and why that's so important to have. Beyond what's included in the job description and all the things. So it makes sense why marketers, why growth leaders should be a part of this conversation. So as you've said, you are going to be leading a webinar on December 12th, called AEC Websites That Recruit and Retain Talent. Straight to the point. I
Yeah.
love it. What can people expect in this virtual session?
Yeah. So, our one of our big service lines at LaCourse Design is we create websites for AEC firms. So I've learned a lot in the last 20 years of doing that, and I love sharing what I know. I have a sort of like book, or this is like sort of two of two. The one of two is websites that attract clients, and so this is definitely more focused on recruiting and retaining talent, which, as we defined earlier, is really critical in order to get projects done and have a really healthy culture. Um, at the end of the day, a great website is all about the user. It's not necessarily for the marketing director or the people already in the firm. So we spend a lot of time creating personas. There's different persona types for different employees. I think at minimum, firms should think about a early career, like somebody 0 to 3 years, just getting started. Somebody should think about a mid-career, maybe 3 to 10 years, and then also a persona for a more senior person, maybe 10 plus years. It's like a director or VP level. And personas are these archetypes, and really, like, we help that define what content gets organized so that we're really meeting the needs of somebody who's coming to your site and researching you, considering applying or coming to work for you.
Yeah. I mean, this sounds super. I don't want me. I didn't want to cut you off, but
Yeah.
I'm just thinking how great and in how intense is not the word that I'm looking for, but how intentional you have to be with these websites. So, would you say that principals can join this as well? I mean, who
Yeah, I would love it. I think
Yeah.
it, because, they're gonna set the tone and approve a budget and either, like, support, a lot of times we don't, when we're working with clients, our direct contact is usually like a director of marketing or CMO. But pretty much every time the principals need to sign off on key milestones. And so, yeah, the more they know about it, I think the better the end product is going to be. One thing I wanted to say is that, like, you can't leave recruiting and retention to just that, even that career section. So, making sure that you have really compelling information, like we call it an expertise section. Some people call it the blog, news and views. There's a lot of things, insights, there's a lot of things you can name it. But I think that prospective employees kind of want to know how people think and what's the point of view and approach that firms take. And that's a great way for a prospective employee to read about like how the people in the organization think, and it'll help people self-select. Like if they feel like, oh, I have an affinity for this firm, I believe that too, then great, they're going to apply. And if they don't, that's even better. I'm a big fan of like, don't date people you may not marry, because it just wastes everybody's time. And like,
Right.
let's put it out there. This is who we are. We may not be for everybody.
Right.
Yes, if you join our firm, we're very inclusive, but
Mhm.
yeah. So I think being clear on that can happen really well through like an expertise or an insight section.
Yeah, I'm obviously a big fan of content in general, so I'm always going to celebrate and champion the blog section, however you call it. We are here at SMPS are calling it SMPS Insights,
Yeah.
but I think that that's exactly what we need to share the culture, share what your point of view is. I love the idea of don't date someone you wouldn't marry. I think that in general, just take that as just great advice. So,
Yeah.
which leads me into the final question I have for you today, which is, what words of wisdom would you like to share to an AEC growth professional for this session and just in general?
I think there's a lot to be said about kind of following your passions. There are so many different aspects of marketing that we're almost required to be competent in, but I think it's nearly impossible to go really, really deep in. So whether your passion is digital marketing or whether it's research, or like if you just look at sort of the domains of practice with the SMPS, find one of those and then find something within that you can really make your mark and be known for, both like within your organization and then eventually sort of take that out of the organization. And I'm obviously a fan of like trying to get in front of your audience as an expert, because then it helps attract clients in a sort of non-sales way. It's like low pressure, and people again can like either think, yeah, David knows what he's talking about, or not. And so I think, yeah, by picking a lane, like defining some area of expertise that you want to pursue that's in line with your personal, whatever, personality and passion, that's going to make you a much more effective marketer.
Thank you so much, David. That was great. I'm a big, big advocate of passion and following that passion and being as authentic as you possibly can be toward it. So, thank you so much for joining AEC Unplugged today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Great to see
Yeah,
you.
great. So, look, I hope you enjoyed that discussion. I feel like it's all the different things. We're coming to a close of the year. There's I think a lot of good time for us to really sit down and think about how we want to approach the upcoming year, how we want to close this year. It's not over yet. It's not over yet. I know everybody's ready to circle back. But look, we are in a time where we can really think about our websites. We can really think about recruiting. We can think about branding. And so special thank you to David for joining today. But before we go, obviously have to do my last couple of pushes here. One is make sure you register for David's webinar. That's going to be December 12th. And again, for all of these webinars, if you're not able to join live, you can watch on demand. So register either way. You'll be able to have access to that content. Also, Amplify AEC, the launch rate will be ending November 30th. So I highly suggest this is the lowest rate that you will get it. So go ahead and register today or before November 30th, but do it before you forget. Also, I have been I'm a publisher for The Marketer. So if you are interested in submitting some articles for The Marketer, please reach out to me. I'm really interested in hearing more about the content that you'd like to deliver. And I think that's it. Join the AI webinar, join the CPSM webinar that are both happening this week. But overall, I like to close with I hope if this did not move you to be something different, I hope that it moved you to do something different. So thank you so much for joining. This has been a pleasure for season 2. If you like AEC Unplugged and you want us to come back, which we will, please let us know in the comments. Share your interest, share what you want to hear. But overall, thank you so much for tuning in. It means so much to me. And also, big shout out to my producer, Devin Stubbs, who is doing all the things in the back, all the transitions and things. I'm not doing that myself. So thank you, Devin. And everybody tuning in from Wilmington, from Virginia to Michigan, and hello from Devin. See, there we go. So, look, thank you so much for joining the AEC Unplugged LinkedIn live show. We will be back next year. And until then, happy holidays, and we'll see you next time.